so we're going to talk about how do you change a fraction into a decimal. This may have been something you've learned before in which you had to do it longhand. We are going to use calculators in this class because this is something we're going to have to be able to do quickly because it is eventually just going to be part of a much longer process for us. So how do you change a fraction into a decimal? What you are going to do every time is remember that the top number of a fraction is called the numerator, okay? And the bottom number of a fraction is a denominator. You will simply take the numerator divided by the denominator. In other words, you will take the top divided by the bottom. It is important to remember that it is not bigger number divided by smaller number. That's not accurate. It is simply your top number, your numerator, divided by bottom number, denominator. A lot of fractions will have the top number smaller than the bottom. And that's where you're going to end up with a 0 point something. This number is less than 1. Okay? So in this particular case, I would take 1 divided by 4, which I can plug into my calculator. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. Okay, it's a quarter, a way to think of it. Now, this may have been one that a lot of you are like, well, Mrs. Lang, why did you do it in the calculator? I have it memorized that 1/4 is 0.25. Great. If you have any of these memorized, you do not have to go through the process of finding them. You have it memorized, good to go. A lot of us have it memorized that 1/2 is 0.5. I don't have to go through the work of doing that then. But if I don't, this is what we're going to do. Okay? So let's try another one. Try one that's maybe not as familiar. 5/8. So to do this, I'm going to take 5 divided by 8. Now, the fact that the numerator is smaller than the denominator already tells me this is going to be 0 point something. This number is less than 1. 5/8 is less than 1 whole. So if I take 5 divided by 8, I get 0.625. So that would be that equivalent decimal, which is terminating, and we talked about how terminating decimals can be written as a fraction. Let's try another one. 2/3. Okay? 2/3 means it's going to be 0 point, but I'm going to take 2 divided by 3. And what I actually see on my calculator is quite a few 6's and then a 7. Okay? What's going on here is 2 divided by 3 is what we talked about before. This is a repeating decimal. It's 0.666 ... Okay? Now, you may be saying, well, if it's 6's forever, Mrs. Lang, why do I see a 7 there? Some of you don't. Some of you will not see a 7. Some of you will see 6's forever. But your calculator, you are smarter than your calculator. Your calculator doesn't understand that this is 6's repeating forever. So you have to recognize on your own that what your calculator is doing is it was 6, 6, 6. Your calculator took this 6 and rounded it up to a 7. Your calculator doesn't know any better. You have to know that when you see this, it means this, that's 0.66666. Okay, and some of you will just see 6's. You won't see that 7, but some of you will see the 7. How we write that is with that repetend we learned about. So 2/3 is 0.6 repetend. Okay, and you want to put that repetend just over the 6. And that is how you change a fraction to a decimal. That is it. You can use your calculator. The only thing you really have to do is recognize when you have a repeating decimal, which sometimes is hard to do on the calculator. That's why some repetend repeating decimals are good to get memorized. 1/3 is 0.3 repetend. 2/3 is 0.6 repetend. 1/9 is 0.1 repetend. So if you can memorize some of those, it does make it easier. Or if you do the calculator, it kind of jogs that memory. But you will either get a terminating or a repeating decimal. You take the numerator divided by the denominator, and you have your decimal.